Hello, testing. How's everyone doing tonight? Very well, very well. I would say thank you so much for coming out tonight. This is a big deal for myself, my brother Jeffrey, I think the city of Charlotte, and I think millennials as well. I think this is a breaking ground moment in terms of what we can do as African Americans, as well as what we can do as trendsetters in the community. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 14. For he himself is our peace, who has made two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility. Good evening. My name is Jonathan McLean. I'm co-founder of the Clean Slate USA. On behalf of the brand, I want to personally thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. We hope tonight will spark more conversation around the challenges our community faces and how we plan to overcome those barriers. When Jeffrey mentioned that he wanted to interview the head sheriff of Charlotte, I knew this gracious experience would be very special. After speaking with Jeffrey so many times about the tentative date for this exchange and watching him further his research, I saw a gentleman that was actively striving to change the community with his talent day by day, as if he already wasn't doing so. Today, we are gathered for a very special moment that I feel personally will be the catalyst in our community. Today will not also stop one from possibly making irrational decisions. However, I have heard Jeffrey say numerous of times on the phone this week, this will serve as a solutions incubator from our community in Charlotte, North Carolina to the world. This is a new experience for us all. That said, be open. Listen closely. Again, be open. Listen closely to what these gentlemen have to say and enjoy a conversation that will change and impact the streets you and I drive on daily. We play on daily as well as walk on daily. Now, with no further ado, please allow me to introduce Jeffrey Lockhart and Sheriff Garry McFadden.
How y'all doing? See, he don't even know how to hold a mic. He wants to talk to me. He don't even know how to hold a mic, bruh. It's the button right there.
All right. How you doing, Sheriff McFadden?
I'm good.
I'm glad to be here with you today.
I'm glad to be here. Y'all good?
So I chose you to sit down with because I have a lot of respect for you. I will say the stigma of where I'm from, you know, interacting with the police or law enforcement, period, isn't something that's very fond of, but you're different to me. Oftentimes I talk to my friends about how I don't feel like law enforcement do their job as far as being in the community and being transparent. You know, so I'm glad to be here with you today. I got a lot of respect for you, and I don't think I could have did this with anyone else in Charlotte's law enforcement, so glad to have you here.
Yeah, I can't sing, so don't worry about that either. Don't never worry about me. But I came to Charlotte when I was 17 years old. Me and my parents had this wonderful discussion that I wanted to play Division I football, but that didn't work out. So I came to Charlotte in 1977. Graduated from Johnson C. Smith. That's right. JC? That's right. None of that Aggie pride and all that.
I'm an Aggie. Stuff. Aggie all for life. Aggie pride. Aggie pride.
See, you can't even rep your school with somebody running around and Virginia and all that other stuff. But after I finished Johnson C. Smith in May, I joined the police department on a very crazy note. Me and four of my friends went to apply with Charlotte Police Department at the time, and they denied every one of us. So you don't know where this is, but I walked back down to where the Greyhound bus station was, and I got mad, and I turned back around and got into an argument with this young man and discussed, my career, and they hired me. And I just left CMPD from 1982 to this past October. But imagine giving a kid a gun and a badge at 22 years old and say your assignment is the Boulevard, West Boulevard, Southside Homes, Little Rock, Boulevard Homes. And so that was my area, and the people accepted me, fell in love with them. They took care of me like I was their own. And it was a whole different relationship. And even now, when Boulevard Homes and Little Rock and all, they have the annual baseball, softball picnic, I get invited. And so that's where I kind of grew up and cut my teeth, and I had a lot of fun. We didn't have the differences between law enforcement and community like that. Even my wife is here tonight. During the Christmas holidays, we would buy gifts and then go to Boulevard Homes and give the gifts away in Dalton Village and everything else. So then it was, when I came back to the streets, it was like family. You know, you didn't have to beat up nobody, fight nobody, shoot nobody. And, you know, it was ultimate respect. And then we had gangs. You know, we had real gangs, not what y'all still living at home with your mama gangs. You know, we had real gangs. And believe it or not, in 2014, me and those same gang members, G-Man, He-Man, and all that stuff, we had a picnic in the park. And they asked me, could I get the two together? And I'm like, why? And we did, and we had a wonderful time. So my relationship in the hood has always been close, and I love it, to this day.
So how do you've been here for a while, so how do you feel about the progression of Charlotte as far as even like the Boulevard Homes isn't there anymore, so it's gentrification and things of that matter. How do you feel about the progression of Charlotte overall?
I feel good about the city. I feel good about the city growing. I feel good about the city moving forward, but it's not a neighborhood anymore. You know, when I go down to Boulevard Homes now, man, it's Renaissance, whatever it is now, and Dalton Village is Arbor Glen and everything. And people grew up together, and you knew each other together, but now we don't have that sense of family, neighborhood, and all of that. I mean, if I had stopped somebody back, I knew who their mama was, you know, who their brother was, and all of that. So now you don't know. You know what side of the city that they lived on, but you don't know that now.
So you have these neighborhoods such as Boulevard Homes, Fairview Homes, Trine Hills, Brook Hill is on its last legs.
Last leg.
But we still have Southside Homes. And we also still
Delahaye Courts, probably.
We still have Delahaye Courts. Do you feel like these neighborhoods are more harmful or helpful to the African American ecosystem? And do you see neighborhoods like Southside Homes and Delahaye Courts surviving the course as Charlotte continues to progress?
I think Southside Home may be the last one to survive. I don't see Delahaye Courts going to be around. And later on, if you look at where South Boulevard is now, Youngblood, and all of that, it's just across the railroad tracks. And they're going to want the land. It's prime land. You know, if you look at where Bojangles is on South Tryon and how it's coming down, and they got Brook Hill. I think when you have communities like that, you have a sense of well-being and belonging. You're not going to have that when you spread everybody out. You know, some people still call the valley, Hidden Valley, the valley. And then, you know, you grew up there and you know Hidden Valley well. But I think we're going to lose that community feeling, and we'll spread it out. I don't think we're going to have the same neighborhoods like we had before.
So do you feel like those neighborhoods brought any positivity to the African American community?
Yes, I do. I think it brings family because I feel still close to the people in these areas. And it's funny, my kids growing up, I would drive them through the neighborhoods, and I say, if your car ever broke down right here, you need to go to that house or that house. And they knew that. And I felt good about saying, go to that house and go to that house. I think we benefit from growing up in neighborhoods like that. You had people to take care of you every day. You saw the kids grow up. You saw people leave and come back. So I think those neighborhoods did benefit our communities.
I wanted to start this next question by saying congratulations.
Thank you.
You were elected the first African American sheriff of Mecklenburg County.
That's what they say.
So you spent years with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department as an officer and eventually a homicide detective. What was the thought process behind running, and what made the transition so smooth?
I'm going to tell y'all, I never in my life wanted to be sheriff. It was nothing that I had planned. I'm sitting at home, minding my business, you know, having fun, doing what I do, speak across America, traveling and everything else. I was still actually working for Charlotte Mecklenburg Police when the community is saying, we want better. They want something different. They want better. They want something different. My wife and family, I tell you, and my PIO, my young lady here, Tanya Ryben, they had to talk me into it. And then I'm like, I know what it's going to be. It's going to be, they're after me. It's going to be HELL. It's going to be crazy. Either they love you or they hate you. And as you can see, then I knew me. And that's the scary part. I know how I am. You know, I talk a lot. I say what I want to say. And that's it. And, you know, my staff gets mad. I mean, they get nervous when I get to a microphone. And I say, let me be clear. You know, and so I knew what I wanted, but I knew that I can also be the change agent. That is the scary part, because I'm not going to listen to status quo. And please understand this. I am not a politician. Please understand that. Take it back onto your mama, grandmama, anybody. I'm not a politician. I'm a leader. And I don't listen to status quo. Ain't nobody need to call me and kissing the baby and all that stuff. No. If I make you a promise, I'm going to keep my promise. And I think we're going to get to that part, too.
When you first got into the sheriff's seat, you did not receive the same treatment as your predecessor, Erwin Carmichael.
What?
You were not compensated during your first few weeks of being a sheriff, and you even protested what was offered when it was first presented. How important was it for you to stand your ground during that process, especially as an African-American male, being that the first African-American in that seat?
Okay, let me go there. First of all, let me say this back up. This is no lie, y'all. It took me how long? 6 months to have light bulbs changed. I just got light bulbs changed last week in my office. Those are things y'all don't know about. But I was taught going to what they call sheriff school before I became sheriff. So you go to the school and you learn all this stuff and you learn all this. So by law, if the county commissioners did not come together and do a referendum about my salary, they are supposed to start my salary where the other guy left off. Now, if they did a referendum as I'm coming into office, they had to do it 10 days before I filed for office. So when I filed for office in January, they were supposed to do a referendum so I wouldn't get paid that money. So imagine somebody forgot, but I knew. So when I got there, you know, I said, well, let me talk about my salary. Quote, we ain't paying you that. Okay, great. I'm gonna come back to you. So I got people from other places to speak for me, lawyers to speak for me. The law school out of Chapel Hill spoke about that's the law, that's what you got to do. So they went on, and people forgot about it. And my first check was 8 cents. And I still got a copy of it. I ain't even cashed it, still gonna keep it. So I told them that I want my money. You know, so they look, and I sent emails, and they didn't send the emails, didn't recognize the emails. So then I looked onto the calendar and knew that the county commissioner was going to have a meeting. So I registered as a speaker, not as the sheriff, to speak. And I spoke, and in the next day by 12 o'clock, I got my money. And so these are the things you have to go through. Did I expect it to be like that? Some things that I expect now is happening to me, I know it's going to happen. Did I expect that to happen? Yeah. And that's why they prepared us for it. But we're good now. But we still can't get what I want. Was I treated like the previous sheriff? No.
Do you think it's because you're African American?
Always. Always. Things that I can't get done now, I get rejected about 90% of the stuff I ask for. Now, in my book, no means the next option. and then I'm going to fight, and I'm going to ask, and I'm going to demand, and I'm there. You know, people say, why? Because I took this position, and I want to be respected, and I'm going to try to make them understand you have to respect me.
Now, before we get into 287G,
What's that?
let's address all of the other great things that you've done since being in the sheriff's seat that they seem to leave out.
They always leave it out.
You know, you've implemented a lot, and as a member of the community and someone who believes that jail is never the last stop for someone, I love it. So the first thing that stuck out to me when I first started doing my research on you, I was watching the news one day and I seen that you were having a job fair for inmates that were getting ready to come home.
That's wrong. We do not say inmate.
Residents.
Residents.
Yes, sir. You opened up a barber school in the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. We know how important that barbershop is in our community.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Even when I don't need it.
You terminated solitary confinement for youth offenders. That was something that had been in play at the Mecklenburg County Detention Center since 2000. Me personally, I believe solitary confinement for youth inmates can disturb one's mental growth. You now allow youth inmates to have outdoor recreation. That's the first time that's happened in 19 years at the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. You also terminated strictly video visits, and you brought back in-person visits. And as someone who's had to walk into that detention center before, or walk into that prison before, and have to go see someone, that person-to-person interaction is everything. I don't think you can get that out of a video, so I respect that.
Thank you.
And you also partner with Queen's University and Charlotte Works to create a digital literacy course for inmates to receive media skills.
And the reason I think all these were important, before I took this office, I had the privilege to go to Germany and Norway and spent a week and studied their criminal justice system. And we can never, no, I'm gonna say that, we are so far behind from other foreign countries, and we believe that we're good. So I spent my day in Germany, and my last one was in Norway, and I decided to change the language, to stop labeling people. And so that's why we'll say residents, and then we don't say jail, we say detention center. But here's what I say, and I always say this, and I will carry this the rest of my life. I spent 3 hours with a young man in his room, and TV, you know, and as this goes on, we may share a lot of this with you all. And they had cooking schools, they had barber schools, they had a recording studio and everything, and I got the album, and I got the apron, I got the coffee mug, I got the cookbook and everything. And so when we were leaving, me and this guy spent 3 hours together, walking up and down the hall, we cooking and everything. And it had no similarities to a jail or a prison. They were just men and women. And, you know, when I was leaving, he stopped me and he turned, you know, spun me around. And he said, "Gee, we may never see each other again. We may never maybe even talk to each other again. But I'm going to try to Facebook you and do all this stuff." But he says, "I want you to remember this. Every single day that somebody sees you in that detention center, you are somebody's hope. You are somebody's hope, and don't give up on them." And he said, "If you can just give me that, we're good." And I always remember that. So when I came back, I started to change it. My staff would tell, oh, that's the governor? So my staff would tell you now, they get mad because I require my men and women to write if they got a problem. I get letters every single day. And some of it seems like it's trivial. Like my young ladies, they want yoga. So they're going to get yoga. When I heard that my young men haven't been outside in 19 years, for me to be in charge of that, it was an easy fix. We have a young man named Keith Cradle. We name it Camp Cradle. Now, my staff will tell you, I went out last Tuesday with my sweats, sneakers, and everything on, and I spanked some people. You know? I spanked some people on badminton.
I was about to say, I seen you out there getting it in with the badminton.
But then when you're talking to your kids, because they are kids, when they leave, we have built a relationship. And so then I think it's very important to do that. We did the barbershop. You know, we're going to have our first barbershop in the name of Cops and Barbers. We have this organization with Sean Corbett on Lucky Spot Barbershop. We partner with Walmart, and we're going to be in Walmart there. The job fair was huge. Y'all can tell I like clothes, so my men have suits. And where do we get the suits from? We get them from dry cleaners and people who have them. So when you turn all this around, I am, and I'll say this to my staff, we are preparing somebody's neighbor. So we're not releasing inmates, we are releasing somebody's neighbor. Why do we say that? Because that person is going to leave and he's going to live beside somebody. So I'm trying to prepare that person much better than they went in. So all these things that we are doing are very important. We're going to try to we're creating contact visits now, where we're experimenting with fathers and their kids. I think last Friday, we saw a young man to see his 1-month-old daughter and held her for the first time. He didn't care about nobody else in that room. And the room is not where we are there, it's just the family and the kids, and we're making an environment that it looks like a daycare. So I think all of these are important. Why? Because it's here. If you change their sense of thought and thinking, you change the whole body.
One thing I will ask, with the recent death of a resident due to fentanyl use, will you implement drug treatment programs for residents of the detention center who may need it?
Yeah, we have drug treatment programs. We got programs after programs after program after program, and we have all those programs. The problem that we have with drugs coming in to the facility is what we call suitcasing it. So we're getting a scanner, and so once we get that scanner, then we can detect it. But what you see on TV is not what we really do. So, you know, we can make you cough and all that other stuff, but, you know. So when we get that, that will decrease what we call suitcasing, bringing drugs in. But we are we're very sad for this young man who lost his life, and actually I gave the death notification. What's suitcasing? It's like right here. My wife is corporate America. Okay. Suitcasing is right here, honey. Right there. You got it now? There's a big old suitcase too. So that's what happens, and then they bring it in, and we don't detect it, and then they give it to other. But we have the scanner. We just having it shipped and get it to our facility, then we'll be able to x-ray people as they come in.
All right, so you and Ice haven't seen eye to eye.
Ice I got is in my glass.
You've received national attention, you know. Me and you had a conversation back there before this started. They're talking about you at the White House.
Yes.
You're ruffling feathers. You're starting trends. Other sheriffs are killing 287G. You are the first to do so. Can you tell us here tonight why the termination of 287G was important for you and your beliefs? And for those who don't know what 287G is, 287G is a voluntary program that detains jail inmates who are in the country illegally. Now, on the ground level, I understand why you terminated 287G, but can you tell the people why you did?
Well, 287G, which is a voluntary agreement, that means that the federal government says, will you voluntarily be a part of that program? In my understanding, unless somebody else can help me understand, if somebody says, will you voluntarily be a part, you get to say yes or no. So the other sheriff says yes. I said no. Everybody knew when I got into the office, it was a no. So the reason why, because I spent about 3 decades running around here in the streets, and it did not build trust with the community. We got bad trust in all communities now. But what happened with that is, and I can say that I have open homicides with people scared to talk to the police. People who are legal is scared to talk to the police because of the snitching thing. and all that other stuff. So imagine being a victim of a crime and never can report it. Imagine being sexually assaulted and never being able to report it. Because if you do, then I'm going to tell them that you're an illegal. So I can come to your house and assault you every day, and you can't do anything about it. Or if the father walks the kids to the bus stop, and ICE comes and snatches that father, these kids never see their fathers again. So it has multiple layers, but I think that it didn't build trust in the community. Secondly, we were doing ICE's work. When we get to these other sessions to talk to you, I'm going to educate you all. We are doing nothing different except instead of what my sheriff deputies were doing inside a detention center, now you have to do it. Now, and I also say, bring me a criminal warrant. A criminal warrant. Not a detainer and not a administrative warrant. The detainer does not have a signature from a judicial official, which is a judge. The administrative warrant does not have a signature from a judicial official. So all I'm saying to them, if you believe this guy's bad and you believe he's doing all that, go and swear out a federal warrant or make a federal complaint and bring me that warrant, and I'll hold him all day. Here's what they didn't tell you, that I have over 400 federal inmates, residents, inside my detention center now. Who's paying that? The federal government. Now, if you come in on a retainer, I get to pay the bill because the retainer is not signed by a federal judge. So what happens is it's on my ticket. So it's a small fight, and people saying, well, you're doing this and you're doing that. But it doesn't build trust. You know, imagine that we're nervous when we see the police. Imagine living in the same fear all of your life if you are an undocumented person. You can't go to the store, your kids can't go nowhere, you come home and your mom and daddy gone, and that's it. And so for me, it was a simple thing, and if they believe that they have these people who are dangerous, point them out, do a warrant, and bring them. And we all know how that works because we have loved ones in federal prison now for conspiracy. So if you want to do a federal complaint, I just ask them to do that, and that's it.
Why don't you think they see your side of the spectrum as far as, you know, families being broken up or things of that nature?
It's power. It's a power struggle. And see, what happens is, for the very first time, you have a sheriff that exercises his right as the sheriff and didn't go along with status quo, knew the law, know the law, and says, this is the way I want it. So I think it's still going to be a fight. No matter what I do, it's going to be a fight. The night that I was elected in May 8th, the spokesman from ICE, from his car seat, stated that if he does that, this is what we're going to do. Now, I thought it was a voluntary program, so now I'm being threatened and compelled to do a program that you asked me to be just a part of voluntary. So we're still going to be fighting for a while, I think.
Now, this is going to lead me into my next question. Your presence is heavy in the community. You served as a homicide detective for CMPD for years. How important is it for you to still remain in these communities now that you're the sheriff?
I love it. Hope nobody got that video at me at West Charlotte.
I just seen that a few weeks ago, that you were at West Charlotte.
They called me out. So, I took them down the Old Country Road. So I think it's important for you to be in the community every day. I think so. My wife, I tell you, you can say kids, I'm in the community. High school, I'm in the high school. I went to, I think, 3 or 4 graduations last week and, yelled out Dub C and West Mech and all this. And I think it's important because you see us as law enforcement, but we're not threatening. Like the principal said when I go to West Charlotte, only when you come do these kids act like that. But they're my kids. I'm a member of their community, always want to be, and I don't want them to see me as just a sheriff. When I started to run for sheriff, I went to the school and talk to the kids, say, what do y'all think? And they're like, gee, we got you. But then what touched my heart so much is that I had kids voting for the very first time for me, and I'm not going to leave them. You know, now they're going to school, and we keep up with them. So when you talk about kids, that's me. So I'm always going to be in the community. I think the community is fascinating. The hood is fascinating. It's just fun. You know, I lived at 3220 Beatty's Ford Road when I first got out of college. And I stayed there, and I drive by there sometime now. I had some of the best furniture that money could buy. I didn't buy it. I got it from Myers Park. I put it on top of my car and brought it in. And so, you know, sleeping on the mattresses, worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken on Freedom Drive, cooked more chicken than anybody in here. And so I guarantee you, I do chicken right, if y'all want to see the picture. But then when you have that relationship with the community, it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, it's a young man who is in my building. He is 87 years old. 87 years old. Imagine him coming up to me one day and saying, I remembered when you were off of Southside Home. And that's, you know, back in the day. But he watched me grow up as a law enforcement. So you know what he says every day? Your floors are going to be clean. Your glass is going to be clean, because I'm not going to give anybody anything to talk about you. But his job is just to clean the bathrooms and the lobby. But he feels good because he knows me, and I feel good about it. And I speak to him all the time. You know, we give a little dap, and he winks. But, you know, for him, it makes him feel good. You know, don't want to say this, I'm his Obama, and he feels good about that. And, you know, when I talk to him every day, he remembers when I was just out there. And, you know, scared, nervous, because I don't know why the Golden Walk is still open on West Boulevard. Somebody please tell me why the Golden Walk is still open. Ain't never been robbed, don't do no advertisement, or nothing. Everything done went. So, you know, that's our joke every day, how the Golden Walk stay open. You know, and nobody said nothing to him. So, but for him, it's an encouragement every day. So I'm always going to be in the hood. I'm always going to be in the community, just riding around. And I'm not scared to be out there. And it's good because the people see and wave, and I'm their product. I'm a product of the hood for them. So I'm always going to be connected to them.
I know people appreciate that, because I feel as if some officials in law enforcement in Charlotte, I just feel like they don't tap into our community. It's not important. I actually had an idea. I was wondering why, like on the 4th of July or Memorial Day, why won't CMPD go to like the worst neighborhoods and pay for cookouts and shoot fireworks?
I'm going to tell y'all now, my fantasy is to give out hot dogs all day. So if y'all see me out, I want to give out hot dogs all day and drink Fanta. You know, y'all don't know about that. I went to the store the other day and fussed with my wife. I want my grape Fanta, and they didn't have it, you know. But I think it's good to us to be connected and always be connected, and I think that's where we lose. And then you can better understand what the community suffers and why they suffer and what they feel.
Just on going back to the subject of like West Charlotte, 16 guns were found on a CMS campus this past school year. The Butler incident also happened. I don't see many solutions when I feel as if it's guns on a CMS high school campus every day. Do you think a form of metal detectors is a bit much, or what solution do you think it will take to solve that problem?
They're going to bring, I want to tell y'all, they're going to bring metal detectors at some point to the schools. And they're going to have discussions about that. It starts here, of what do we think about taking each other's life? And I think that we need to talk about that. You know, we take each other's life. And so we need to talk about that. One of the hardest things for me doing the Butler's incident is that I dealt with both families. And I wasn't even in homicide. I was, you know, not even the sheriff yet, I don't think. The mother of the victim called me to ask me to speak at the funeral, and I did. Then the other family called me to help them through the process, because when I was there, because the kid was inside a facility. And when I see him, you're looking at a 16, 17-year-old kid, all 90 pounds, now in an adult facility. And so I dealt with a lot of emotions because you speak at the funeral, but then you talk to the mother at night, and you speak to the mother at night, and you talk to the other family. And they both suffered. Both families will lose their child. One lost their child eternally, and then the other family, when your family members are in jail or prison or whatever you want to call it, the family is too. The child is, the family is too. But I think that it takes us to truly talk about, does it get that serious where you have to kill somebody? Everybody knew about the beef. Everybody knew about the gun. Everybody knew everything. My last homicide case was 2 brothers that were killed in Arbor Glen. And the young man who took their life, he is now serving life plus life. And I saw him a year and a half after he went there, and I have a video of it. And if we ever have these sessions, I'll bring it back. And they were having a beef since they were in the 6th grade. Everybody knew about it, but nobody stepped in. You bust my windows out, I bust your windows out. You beat up my cousin, I beat up your cousin. I knock your windows out at the club, you knock my windows out. Everybody knew it. Everybody hyped it up. Everybody filmed it and everything. But then, my man just walked down the sidewalk one day and said, I'm tired. What is going to be? And then, the hype men in the background hyping up, bro, where you going to do? Where you going to? And then all of a sudden he pulls out a gun, bang, bang. 2 brothers lost their life right there. And so when I went to visit him, and I wish I could bring, if we come back, because I don't want the sessions to stop tonight, I'll let you hear what he said. So here's a dude, 17 years old. He gets life. And what does that look like? And here's what it looks like. And he'll tell you this. 17 years old, your mama going to start coming for a while. And she's going to visit you a while, put money on your books, boom, 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 boom. And then about 10 years later, she's going to get tired because they done move you out to Pasquotank. Pasquotank County, you can go to D.C. before you get to Pasquotank County. It's way out. So then what's she going to say? Baby, hang in there. And what happens? She gets too tired, she gets old, and she's going to stop coming. Then your sister, who was probably 12 years old at the time, is going to visit you, but now she's 22 years old because it's 10 years later. She gets married, have kids, and then her kids don't know you. And then it goes on and on and on. And here's what he says. 17 years old, double that. How much is that? 34 years old, your mama's deceased. You 34, 35, 40 years old, how much more life did you have to go? Then nobody comes to visit you, and imagine you just there. Or, we can be real, right? Imagine you're a 17-year-old good-looking brother, dreads down, skin's beautiful, and you have 3 or 4 girlfriends because you that dude. It stops right there. What do you do for the next 40 years? And see, what you consider something somebody doesn't consider it, they consider it survival. And you know what that is. So it's not no, you're not gay, this survival. And that's what happens. So, those things happen. And then when I'm sitting there talking to a man, and I wish I could share the video, he said, man, just tell him, man, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. And he says, it just ain't worth it. It wasn't worth it now, but he was 17 years old at the time. And now he's been in there 14 years. I have a friend that went to prison. I'm 59. I have a friend serving life for a murder that he committed when we were 13. He is still there. And so is it really worth all of that? So we're going to have to address violence, truly address violence, and not get that violence is all right, but this violence is not. Until we get to that point, we're going to still survive. We're still going to be struggling with getting respect of why we can do this. Why can we kill them, but you can't? That's hard, but we got to think about that.
1993.
125.
One of the worst years for Charlotte's murder rate. Do you see remnants of 1993 and 2019 with the way things have been going? And being that I've gotten into the habit of watching the news every single day is something. As a matter of fact, I was watching the news before I left home, and it was a murder on Beatties Ford Road before I left home. It hurts worse to know that this is my hometown that I love, and some of the victims sometimes are my peers. I know that it's not something that can be done overnight, but what is one main thing that you think could help this problem that our community is having?
First of all, I think we should rally against all violence. We should rally. You can't just rally when law enforcement takes the life of a citizen, because you're showing them that that's the only time it matters. Now that's the only time it matters, but why not matter all the time? It just said, I'm tired. I'm tired of going to funerals. I'm tired, wearing the Rest in Peace t-shirts. We have to step out. You have to get involved. You have to get your churches involved. Everybody got Vacation Bible Study. Well, let's talk about the violence in our community, because what happens, it's going to touch somebody, and then all of a sudden, after they touch somebody, now, I got to create an organization to stop violence. We need to talk about violence every single day, and we need to talk about, man, it don't have to be like that. If your boys going to the club and you don't drink the hen and y'all getting into an argument and somebody step on your shoe, say, man, don't, man, come on. He didn't mean that, bro. He didn't mean that. Not be the hype man, and then all of a sudden he's the hype man and everybody gets shot. Then you come and lie, oh, that was my boy, that was my dog, and then you crying at the funeral. Then you do all this stuff. No, we have been to too many funerals and lost too many people. That year, 1992, I'll never forget this family, that the mother was killed going to the store. 2 16-year-olds knocked her in the head, dragged her in the house, and assaulted her and killed her. She left 5 kids behind. We took those 5 kids to the grandmother's house on Katona Avenue. That's when Katona Avenue was off the hook. They experienced their mother dying June 20th, 1992. On July 17th, I went to the grandmother's house because the uncle and the aunt were selling out of the house. Some boys kicked in the door, shot the aunt and the uncle in front of them. So this family experienced 3 murders in a 30-day period. Now, I'm still connected with that family. And the sad part, in 2010, one of the 5 kids that I took from that house to the grandmother's house was killed in 2010, behind nothing. And so when you see this violence continuing all the time, they are waiting for us to step in as a community to address the issue. And you have to do that.
You were frontline during the protest that arose on behalf of Keith Lamont Scott's murder, helping console the community, but also doing your job as a member of Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department at the time. This year, a CMPD officer murdered another African-American male. Your perspective on things are unique. Because you are law enforcement, but you also have a strong African-American perspective. Please tell me how you personally view these incidents.
I'm going to talk about 2 incidents, but I want to talk about 3 incidents. Keith Lamont Scott case, and you all never will know this. I had a consulting company, just me and my wife and kids. Nobody does work but me, but they read stuff. I had just left Greensboro, North Carolina, and people don't know this, that my consulting company helped a young man who spent 17 years in jail for a murder he never committed. So we had just an attorney hired me to help get this young man out, and we settled that case that day. And I got a call from Sean Corbett, never forget it. He says, man, they got a shooting. They're about to turn Charlotte up. Come on down. So I get there, and we wanted to do things a little bit different. We wanted to go to the community and say, look, y'all hold it down, man. Hold it down, hold it down. Somebody made a decision that they didn't need us. I'm like, okay, but I was going to get all the boys to come on down, a couple of ex-gang members, and we were going to try to settle the thing. And they said no. And so we were sitting there And I said, okay, I guess y'all got it. So then we looked at everything's going on. That night, Sean called me and said, man, we'll just see how tomorrow runs. We went to bed, woke up, the highway's on fire, the city on fire, and everything else. My wife probably don't know this, but I jumped out and went to the streets and said, don't throw that rock, don't do this and that, this and that. And that's what we try to do, to hold down the tension in the streets and everything else. Now, I'm not asking anybody else to do that, but I felt that it was my job to be out in the streets, be in the middle of the crowds, telling people don't do that, don't throw that. If you throw that, that's going to happen. And then, come on, officer, just you know the deal. You know what this is going to be. You took training. Just resist. You don't have to say anything. I think it was my position to do that so we wouldn't have problems. So a young man named Greg Jackson, he has a organization called Heal Charlotte. We stood in front of the police department and argued for 2 hours. And what happened was I went inside to get some water, and Greg had brought about 200 people down from the city, and they were outside, and they were like, come out, racist police, and knocking on the door. So people were inside, tension outside, tension inside, and then somebody say, take the flag down. When they say take the flag down, I saw everybody inside gearing up. And that was going to be the clash. And then I went down to Greg could tell the story. Some dude come out in a suit like, oh, man, hold up. We started arguing, and we kept that argument until we heard the shots downtown, and we all know what that's about. And then all of a sudden, it was chaos. But I think it's important, and I'll tell y'all this. If we ever go into the streets, and I say we because we're in the same city, you're going to always see your sheriff in the streets. If there's a riot, there's a protest, anything, or if you think you want to riot, if you think you want to protest, let me help you protest so you won't get arrested. And you have that right to do that, but it's a certain way that you can do it properly that it won't be a problem. And if you don't know it and you go out there and impede traffic and nobody with a vest on and you're not walking people across the street, then they're going to find something to find you with. But I think it's important, if it's in the streets and we have taken to the streets, I'm always going to be out there. I feel that's my place, and I don't feel unsafe. I know my wife probably don't want to hear that, but I'm in the street with the people. I love that. Might get a chicken sandwich or something, somebody. I'm sorry.
I remember going to a community meeting, and a lady was saying, is there any right move that young man could have made to save his life? Or was there even a right move that he could have made?
With Keith?
No. Not with Keith, the most recent incident.
Oh, man. That's the $1 million question. You could take that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all day. I think what we can do is this. We can go back, yes, he should have did this, she should have did that. I think if you take a look at the whole thing and analyze it for yourself. Now, here's why. And I want a show of hands. And I know I'm not going to get everybody in here. There's a young man was killed in Minnesota. That's the guy with the wallet, said he had the gun. Philando Cast. Yeah. Okay, watch this. I want to show you something. Everybody seen the video, right? I want to show of hands of, and you're going to go back home and look at it tonight. Raise your hands if you saw the second police in that video. Raise your hand if you saw the second police officer in that video. Now, what are you looking like? If anybody pulls that video up now, you will never, if I didn't tell you that, you will never see the second police officer. You know why? Because media and everybody else tell you to look at this, to look at that. And guess what? That's what you went on. When you go home tonight, you're going to see the second police officer walks up to the other side of the car on the passenger side. He never drew his gun. He never pulled his gun. When the shots were fired, he ran back like this, like what in the world is going on? After the shooting, while the other officer is yelling and screaming, he walks back up to the car. He still doesn't have his gun out. and he opens the car door and let the little girl out. If his life is in danger on the passenger side, was his life is in danger? If his life is in danger on the driver's side, was the other officer's life in danger too? We don't think of it like that. Guarantee you don't know this. Michael Brown, right? Everybody heard about Michael Brown. Can anybody tell me how far was Michael Brown from Darren Wilson when he fired the first shot? Can anybody tell me? No. Where can you find it? On the internet, where everything else is. Because they bet on you not having facts of the case, and this is why you say this. We want justice. You are asking for justice. You don't know how to get it. And now that hurts. Michael Brown was over 100 feet away from Darren Wilson when he first fired his gun. 180 feet. Now, how far is that? The next time you go to your school, your cousin's school, your kid's school, or a school, the little squares in the floor, put somebody standing there and ask the person count 180 squares down. And then you see how far he is. So then you never ask the question, when did you fear for your life at 180 feet? Because if he's running towards you, hands up, hands down. Microphone, no microphone. Microphone, no microphone. You can see that. So did he have anything in his hands? Why didn't you get in the car to protect yourself? These are the questions that America never asks, because emotionally, we get emotionally involved and we run with it. And as soon as you run with it, they got you. And what do we do? Over and over and over and over and over. The third one, Walter Scott, shot in South Carolina by the police officer, shot him in the back. You never saw the guy who was in the car with Walter Scott, have you? You don't even know his name. No. I was the third phone call when that happened. I said, T, what's going on? They just shot Walter. Well, what do you want to do? I said, okay, do this, do this, do this. He called me back. He said, bro, I said, what's happening? He said, we got a video. What? Do not do anything with that video. Why? Once you transfer it from your phone to that, authenticity leaves the phone. It's not the same anymore. But here's what you also do. You get on TV, and the person with Michael Brown, every news station interview him. Well, tell us what you saw. And his lawyer standing there, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Tell him what you saw. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Tell him what you saw. We're going to New York. We're going to this place. We're going to Nancy Grace. We're going to the Today Show. We're going to all these shows. And so then what happens when they get to the grand jury? So, Mr. McFadden, what is your story now? And I tell the story. And after I tell the story, I said, that sounds a little different. This is what you said at the 6 o'clock news. This is the 7 o'clock news. This is what you said at Nancy Grace, and this is what you said on CNN. So which is your story of the actual shooting? 5 different stories, because it sounds good. And see, he's telling the story. This is what they do to the community to confuse them. And what happened? You don't get any justice. Sorry, I went there for a moment.
I read an article this past week in the Charlotte Observer.
What they say?
Saying that you should resign.
Tell them I wish not for anybody to hold their breath.
That was about to be my question. What would you say to a person saying that you should resign right now?
I'll say thank you for your thoughts. Period. I'm not going to resign because they understand that that's the only way that I can get out of office, because here's what we don't understand. I'm a constitutional officer. I was voted in by the people. So we can ask a sheriff, you can ask a police officer to resign. But if I don't leave, I just don't leave. And so wishful thinking.
I'm coming down to the end of my interview. So I'm getting off the more deep questions.
Okay.
Just asking
No, I
overall
thought-
questions. I Am Homicide. I'm a big fan of the show.
Oh, I got a TV show.
Yeah, you completed 2 seasons.
Get out of here.
I love it. Do you like the screen, and do you
I
plan
love
on
it.
giving us more?
Yes. I love what I do in the community. When they came to me to do the I Am Homicide TV show, I was happy, I was thrilled, and here's why. I gave young actors some of their very first breaks, and I wanted that. I had control of that. When they wanted to fill that Providence Day, oh, no, not about no Providence Day. Let's go to West Charlotte. You know, so we filmed on that football field. We talked about what goes on in the neighborhood. I don't know if any of y'all saw Superfly. Anybody seen Superfly in here? I hate to say this, but my brother who got killed in the barbershop, the first, doing the movie, and he was in the barbershop in all white, his first acting career was with me. And so, you know, he called me, man, I'm in Superfly. I'm like, do I get any money? You know, but then you give somebody a chance, and then you connect with them, and then you ask for, well, who do you want to cater your events? Minority vendor. Young ladies, my actor who played me, everybody else came up in a car, you know, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and all this stuff. You know, he was running up, tired running from the subway. And I said, can I talk to your mom? I asked everybody, can I talk to their mom if you want to be in my show? He's the only person who said, here, call my mom. And I called his mom, and I said, what was his dream? And his dream to be an actor. And he's doing well now. He called me, Happy Father's Day. He's got 2 or 3 more shows, been on probably 10 shows since that. So for me, it's not about me, it's just giving everybody else a chance to do it. But I went to New York in May, and I signed another contract, so it's gonna be bad. They're gonna do a series called Homicide City, Charlotte. So we're coming back, and it's and they got enough murders to be Homicide City now. So they're going to do that probably this fall. Well, the winter, because it's going to come out next year.
Okay, can you talk about the balance of doing TV and being in the sheriff's seat? Because I believe when you start doing your next season, that'll be the first time that you've been in the sheriff's seat and on TV. Do you fear criticism coming from that? Like, oh,
when I'm buying
he's worried about TV. He's not worried about doing.
Because I think that I can balance the both. Because my heart is still in the community. I know what I have to do. So they're going to talk no matter what. They're going to criticize me no matter what. They say, why you don't wear the uniform? I will wear the uniform when it rains, or something else going on. I'll wear it when I get there. I want to be different. I want to be different. I don't want to be like the others. It's a balance. It's a balance of what I can do. People run corporations and still have jobs. So mine is just entertainment. See the best of both worlds. Can I help somebody else? So somebody's going to have a problem with it no matter what. You know, my wife gives me quotes every day, and, you know, people who are doing more than you never criticize you. It's the ones who's doing less than you going to criticize you. So I look for critics. Yes, I have a little bit of thick skin, but sometimes it bothers you, but I'm going to live with it. You know, when I'm sitting there trying to eat at Eddie V's and the macaroni and lobster stuff, then I can't worry about that. You know, it's an opportunity. I mean, I put it on hold for a year, and now I'm back. So they're going to talk no matter what.
Lastly, what is next for Sheriff Garry McFadden overall?
Man, I have no idea. I'm traveling and speaking now, trying